Have you ever uncovered a secret so deep it made you question everything about someone you trusted? Sometimes, the most shocking revelations come from the people closest to us. What if everything you believed about your partner turned out to be a well-crafted illusion? Share your thoughts below. What would you do? You can call me naive for trusting so deeply, but betrayal often comes from the last person you'd expect. For 15 years, I believed I had a rock-solid marriage. My wife, Vivian, walked into my life at a charity gala during the early days of launching my accounting firm. She carried herself with an elegant grace, her mysterious European accent turning even the dullest conversation into something mesmerizing. We built a life together just outside Denver. A calm, suburban existence. Vivian worked as a freelance translator. Her job involved legal documents, she said, collaborations with global law firms on sensitive international cases. It explained the frequent hotel stays, long hours, and the constant pings on her phone in languages I couldn't make sense of. She took care of our finances like someone born to it. We kept separate bank accounts for professional reasons. My firm served local clients, hers were international. Vivian insisted on overseeing our home finances, budgeting, investments, even our retirement planning. I was thankful, honestly. My firm demanded all my focus, and she seemed to have an intuitive grasp of wealth management. The warning signs were there, sure, but I brushed them aside. She was always vague about her upbringing in what she said was a remote part of Austria. Every time I suggested visiting her family, she'd deflect. Sometimes, her accent would change mid-sentence. I chalked it up to her multilingualism. Her circle of friends seemed to come and go, and none of them ever seemed to know her from before our marriage. But I loved her. Completely. And I gave her my full trust. That trust would be the very thing that destroyed me. It happened on a Thursday afternoon in October. I left work early with a splitting headache, something that had started happening more often lately. Vivian wasn't expecting me home until later. She mentioned a video call with clients in Germany. As I pulled into the driveway, something caught my eye. A sleek black sedan parked a little too casually near our house. It didn't raise alarms, just a passing observation. But as I reached the front door, I heard voices inside, Vivian's and a man's. The man was speaking in what sounded like Russian. I unlocked the door quietly and followed the sound, my heartbeat growing heavier with each step. The voices were coming from my home office, which Vivian often used for her translation work. I edged closer. Through the slightly open door, I saw them. Vivian, standing next to a tall, silver-haired man in a sharp suit. Papers were spread across my desk. But it wasn't romantic, it was far more unsettling. The man held a stack of documents. Vivian pointed to different sections, speaking in fast Russian. On my computer screen were bank records, investment accounts, and strings of numbers I didn't recognize. Then she said something I'll never forget. The identity is flawless. 15 years, and not even a hint of suspicion. The assets are accessible now. Identity? What identity? I must have made some noise. Both of them turned. Vivian didn't look shocked. Or sorry. Her expression was pure calculation. Richard, she said, her voice now colder, her accent suddenly heavier. You're home earlier than expected. The man beside her calmly closed his briefcase and adjusted his tie. I think it's time to tell him the truth, Katerina, he said. Katerina. Not Vivian. My throat tightened. Who are you? I managed to ask, already dreading the answer. She looked at me with unfamiliar eyes, eyes that belonged to a stranger. My real name is Katerina Vulov, she said without emotion. I'm what some would call a professional. That next hour crawled by in slow motion. They didn't bother hiding the truth anymore. There was no need. According to her, the mission was nearly finished. She wasn't a translator. She wasn't from Austria. She wasn't even the age she had claimed to be. Turns out, she wasn't 42 like she told me, she was 38. And she wasn't just from Russia, she was trained in something she chillingly referred to as long-term asset acquisition. Her profession? Identify targets and slowly infiltrate their lives to siphon their wealth. You were ideal, she said with a tone that almost sounded like admiration. You were successful, not too public, no close family nearby to interfere. And you were so appreciative that I handled the money. What I found out next nearly dropped me to my knees. Over the past 3 years, She had been draining our accounts. The investments I thought were flourishing had actually been liquidated. The money had quietly been moved to offshore holdings. My retirement savings? Completely gone. Even our life insurance policy, $500,000, had me listed as the insured, and her as the sole beneficiary. And it didn't stop there. Those headaches I'd been having? They weren't stress. The silver-haired man, who casually introduced himself as Victor, pulled a small vial from his briefcase and handed it to me like he was offering a pen. Thallium sulfate, he said in a neutral tone. No taste. No smell. Works slowly. Mimics natural illness, kidney failure, nerve damage. Doctors rarely check for it. I thought of my coffee. My morning coffee. The one she prepared every day with cream and sugar, just the way I liked it. She'd been poisoning me. Little by little. 4 months. The plan was simple, Katerina, no longer pretending to be Vivian, said. Within a few more months, you'd be sick enough that no one would question it. A devoted wife caring for her dying husband. Once you passed, I'd inherit everything, sell the house, and vanish. Clean and untraceable. I stood there in complete disbelief. This woman, the one I shared a home with, made plans for the future with, fell asleep beside every night, was never real. My voice barely came out. Why are you telling me all this? Victor glanced at his watch and replied calmly. The schedule's changed. We have to move quicker now. That's when it hit me. They weren't confessing. They were giving me my final briefing. Because I wasn't going to be alive much longer. But here's the thing, they didn't know everything. Yes, the headaches were real. But they hadn't all been from poisoning. 3 weeks earlier, after a series of break-ins nearby, I installed a full home security system. Cameras with audio recording, uploading to cloud storage in real time. And at that moment, my phone was in my pocket. Recording. I'd hit record the second I heard the word thallium. Keeping my tone even, I said, I need to use the bathroom. Go ahead, Katerina replied. But Richard, don't do anything reckless. Victor's very experienced. In the bathroom, I moved quickly. I texted my best friend and business partner, Jake. Attached the audio file. Sent the access codes to the house security system. 1 line of text. Emergency. Call police. Come now. I'm in danger. When I returned, they were waiting for me. Victor held zip ties in one hand and what looked like a loaded syringe in the other. But Jake had already acted. He called 911 immediately. And within minutes, sirens wailed outside. The takedown was fast and intense. Katerina, or whatever her real name was, didn't even flinch as officers cuffed her. Victor tried to escape through the backyard. He didn't make it far. Police tackled him into the grass. Inside her purse, they found multiple fake passports, a detailed journal filled with information about me and at least half a dozen other targets, and enough thallium sulfate to kill more than a dozen people. The investigation that followed unraveled something far bigger than I expected. Katerina was part of a global fraud ring, a highly coordinated operation targeting financially stable American men. She had 4 prior marriages. 2 of her previous husbands had died under mysterious circumstances. Those cases were now being reopened as homicides. The financial damage? Catastrophic. Over the 15 years we'd been married, she had siphoned off nearly $800,000. The house was mortgaged far beyond what I knew. I was, for all intents and purposes, bankrupt, and I had been slowly dying without even realizing it. But I survived. And she was facing a mountain of federal charges. Attempted murder, grand larceny, fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. We finalized the divorce while she was in federal custody. The house had to be sold just to pay off the mountain of debt and legal costs she left behind. I was 52, starting from the ground up. And I did. I rebuilt my life. Katerina was sentenced to life without parole. Victor was handed 30 years, and his cooperation helped authorities uncover more about the network. Apparently, women like her were scattered across the country, trained and deployed to seduce, deceive, and destroy. Their targets? Lonely, successful men who trusted too easily. But the hardest part wasn't losing the money or the house. It was the emotional ruin, the realization that every moment we shared had been staged. Every hug, Every kiss. Every lazy Sunday morning over breakfast. All of it, rehearsed. The woman I thought I knew, never existed. I'm telling this story because the warning signs were all there, and I chose to ignore them. So if you're listening, trust your gut. Ask the hard questions. Never give someone total control over your finances without full transparency. Because sometimes, the person lying beside you every night is quietly planning your destruction. Thank you for listening to my story. If it struck a chord or if you've gone through something similar, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories of betrayal and survival. And remember, you're stronger than you think.